Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Locker Room, our weekly podcast where we shine a light on all of our student athletes here in the Bayou Region. I'm Stan Gravois. He is Dustin Robichaud. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm great, Stan. Happy Bill of Rights Day.
Bill of Rights, December 15th, Bill of Rights Day. So for all of you folks in civics class right now, Bill of Rights Day. I did not know that.
1791.
And I must say that we make sure that I don't know what he's about to say. But Bill of Rights Day today.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
You know, at least
There's not much to say about that, I guess, but
a little bit of history.
it's the actual day that the first amendments to the Constitution were ratified.
Awesome. Bill of Rights Day. It's also Christmas season. We hope all of you out there are having a good holiday season. Only one more week for all of the kids who are in school. We are heavy into soccer. We are heavy into basketball. But a little bit later on the show, actually, we turned back a little bit to football simply because if you didn't hear, there are a couple of coaches in the area who will not be coaching where they were at. One of those is Aaron Babin. Aaron Babin was the head coach at South Terrebonne High School for football. He has decided to go home. He is from Lockport. He went to Central Lafourche High School. It's always sort of been a dream of his to be at Central Lafourche. So he's going back to Central Lafourche High School with the opening that they had there. Of course, Shelly Pop Vidros, who was the athletic director, has been doing it, I would call it long-term interim, if that makes any sense. He relinquished that position. Now Aaron is going to move in. Had the opportunity to talk with him. So later on the podcast, you'll hear from Aaron about why he decided to go back to Central Lafourche. Pretty much a no-brainer for him. But now that leaves the South Terrebonne job open. And then we found out over the weekend that Sterling Washington of H.L. Bourgeois is not going to be there next year. So we sort of have a domino effect going on right now. It'll be interesting to see who takes what, who moves into what positions, and how it affects other schools. But that's sort of the way of the world with high school coaches. Listen, we don't want to forget about soccer in our area too. We've been talking about basketball the last couple of episodes. We don't want to forget about soccer. Soccer is going on. Boys soccer, just if you don't understand how it all works, they do not split up into select and non-select divisions. They all play together. So in Division 1, we have 3 schools. That would be H.L. Bourgeois, Terrebonne, and Thibodaux. You see it there on the screen and what their records are right now for you folks who are a little confused when you see H.L. Bourgeois. 5 wins, 1 loss, 4 ties. Yes, in soccer, you can finish with a tie. You can play for 2.5 hours and finish in a tie. Any thoughts on that, Dustin?
I'm not a fan.
I'm not a fan either. They do obviously have to get into the shootout when you get into the playoffs. But as it stands on a regular season game, you just accept the tie. So as you see, Terrebonne is 5-1-4, and their power ranking is 11. So that's Division 1. And Division 2, we have a bunch of schools from our Bayou region. By the way, I want to point out one of those schools. You see Assumption High School, AHS. They are 0-4, but kudos to that school. It's the first year they ever have soccer at Assumption High School. So they're giving it a good go. And the boys are actually competitive. Then you get to Division 3, Vanderbilt, E.D. White, Morgan City play in that particular division. Vanderbilt at a 5 with the power ranking, E.D. White at 13, Morgan City with 16. That's all pretty good. So we're strong in that division. And then finally in Division 4, we have Covenant Christian and Houma Christian. They sit at 22 and 29 right now. And of course, you could see all of the records there. So now we shift gears to the girls. Let's take a look at girls action. Of course, all of the schools are in the same divisions that parallel the boys. So in Division 1, you have Terrebonne, Thibodaux, and H.L. Bourgeois. They flip their standings from the boys, right? Because the girls, you had Terrebonne at the top. The boys, you had H.L. Bourgeois at the top. So it's kind of a flip-flop there. Then in Division 2, you see Central Lafourche, South Terrebonne, Ellender, South Lafourche, and Assumption. Again, the girls of Assumption playing in their first season ever. And then you get to Division 3, Vanderbilt sitting at number 5. Same power ranking as their boys at number 5. E.D. White at number 10 and Morgan City at 18. Again, that's probably where we have our strongest showing in the state is in Division 3 from the Bayou Region. And finally, let's look at Division 4. In Division 4, you have Houma Christian and CCA, and they sort of flip-flop because remember, the boys from CCA were a better power ranking at this point. Now it's the girls from Houma Christian who have the better power ranking at this point. It's early with PowerPoint rankings, but it's not too early because in soccer, you go through January and that's it. You get ready for the playoffs. By the way, kudos to all those kids who play soccer because I'm here to tell you, Dustin, it's cold. And obviously, if you woke up this morning, if you're up and you're watching this on Monday, it's cold. And there are soccer games scheduled tonight and tomorrow night and Wednesday.
My nephews will be playing tonight.
Oh, it's tough, man. It's tough, especially when it's that rainy kind of cold.
Yes.
But that's when soccer season is for high school sports in Louisiana. So again, we'll keep you updated on everything that goes on with soccer in the future as it becomes available. Again, those power rankings starting to matter as we transition to basketball. Matters in basketball now. For the last 3 weeks, I've been telling you, don't get caught up too much into it. Now you're starting to solidify some spots related to PowerPoint rankings with some of these basketball teams. Because some of these teams have 10 games under their belt. And some of them have 0, none. I don't quite understand how that works, but it is how it works. First, let's take a look at boys. In boys, District 8-5A, there you see it. Destrehan at 7-6 has the highest PowerPoint ranking at 14. Then you see HL is 5-5. HL has played a really good schedule. Hornville 5-5. Thibodaux 3-4. Terrebonne 1-3. So consider, look back at Destrehan. Destrehan to this point has played 13 games and Terrebonne has 4 under their belt. So you got to give it a little time related to PowerPoints, but yet those teams who are starting to get a lot of games under their belt, it's going to start to solidify just a little bit. Let's move on to District 8-4A. In District 8-4A, South Lafourche does not compete in the same bracket as all these other teams, but they're having a strong start to the season. They're 7-1. Assumption 7-1. Assumption last year struggled mightily. This year, 7-1 to start the year. Lutcher's at 2-2. Vanderbilt 1-3, but they're number 19 in Division II Select. They play a tough schedule, obviously. And there you see right on down the line, the one team that has not got on the court yet, has not played one game yet, is E.D. White Catholic. So they don't even have a PowerPoint ranking yet. They're about to get on the court, though, soon. Then you go into District 7-2A, and of course, we keep our eyes on Houma Christian. Houma Christian is 1-3 at this point. They are number 29 in the PowerPoint rankings. That does not get you in, folks. They're going to have to move up just a little bit to get into the playoff bracket. And finally, in 7-1A, Covenant Christian only has 1 game under their belt. They thought they would be making a run at the Dome in football, so they kind of slow played their schedule. But now they'll start to play a lot of games. They're sitting at number 2 in Division 4. You do have to play a minimum amount of games. For example, you can't play 3 games during the year, go 2-1, have a great PowerPoint ranking, and get in. The minimum number of games is either 12 or 15. I forgot exactly what it was. So we'll see. And remember, a lot of teams already have 12 games played so far. So that's a look at the boys. Let's take a look at the girls. In girls action in 8-5A, Terrebonne's having a great year. They're 8-2. They're number 11 in the Division 1 non-select bracket. Destrehan's always good in everything, and they're sitting up there too. HL Bourgeois 7-2. They lost on a last-second shot to Vanderbilt Catholic's girls, and we know Vanderbilt's girls are good. They're the defending state champs. So look for HL Bourgeois to make some noise. Central Lafourche is there at 4-4. And then Thibodaux, Hornville, and East St. John trying to get some things together as they all, at this point, are well under 500. Then you go to District 8-4A. Nick Sinak likes to play a lot of games. He's got his Lady Cardinals at 8-2 on the year at this point, so they have 10 games played. Vanderbilt with 6 games is 5-1. Those two teams are both in the Division II Select bracket, and they sit at 3-6. So we're very good in that bracket. Lutcher, South Terrebonne, South Lafourche, remember, they play in Division I. They're 7-1. But they also play in the Division I bracket, so that's going to be a little tough for them to gain a lot of ground in PowerPoints. Ellender, 6 wins on the year. Good for them. Good for Javon Robinson. Last year they were 0-24. This year they're making a little bit of noise as it's early in the season. Let's talk about District 7 2A. In District 7 2A, Houma Christian is at 1-2. So they need to get some games under their belt. Most of the teams in that district look like they have around 8 games played so far. And finally, in District 7 1A, Covenant Christian 0-2 at this point, sitting at 31. You got to get into the top 24 to make the bracket for that particular division. So the Lady Lions have some work to do. Again, I think with soccer, PowerPoints are mattering a lot. I think with basketball, they're mattering, but not a lot. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Maybe not worded the best way. With that being said, I think we're getting to a point where you got to start looking at that just a little bit, because it has nothing to do with winning your district championship. Although district champions do get in the bracket automatically, that's not the goal. The goal is to be safely inside that number it takes to be in your bracket. So a lot of those coaches are looking at this and obviously looking at it pretty good. We're going to have some interviews with basketball coaches coming up and the weeks coming up during the holidays and into January. So we'll hear a lot more about basketball as we move forward. But I did promise you that we would have Aaron Babin on. Got to talk to Aaron kind of interestingly just over the weekend. I was in my backyard. He was out there, and we talked about his decision to go to Central Lafourche to head up that football program. Here's Aaron Babin. It is my pleasure to be joined by Aaron Babin, the head coach of the Central Lafourche Trojans. Aaron's going home. I'll let him explain why he chose to go back to Central Lafourche. But obviously, Aaron, congratulations. I know it's a situation. You live there in Lockport. You went to school at your alma mater. Talk about everything that went into that decision from your end.
Well, from my end, I think the first thing I got to, start with is I have to thank South Terrebonne and, Mr. Blaze Pellegrin for hiring me there and giving me an opportunity, and Dr. Gautreaux for allowing me to stay, as a head football coach in my tenure here. And it gave me the experience to where, it led to an opportunity to where, like you said, I get to go home. And that's really what it was about. It's an opportunity to go back to my alma mater. It's an opportunity to be closer to my family during the football season, and just cutting down on drive time and being able to put in all the time that I did at South Terrebonne, and just increasing family time by just cutting down drive time. And that's really what it revolved around, is just being able to do a job I love, and be able to give my family, a little bit more time. And that was like the leading decision behind it, because I've enjoyed every second at South Terrebonne High School.
Talk a little bit about the progression from first starting at Central Lafourche, but then being an offensive coordinator at Vanderbilt, being a head coach at South Terrebonne. Is that something that is sort of invaluable as you do go to Central Lafourche? Like, obviously, you've learned some things along the way, right? Talk about the progression and how you think it's going to benefit you when you're in Matthews.
I think, even going back and answering this question and going back to the last one, it's a dream come true to be named head football coach at Central Lafourche High School. If I go back to when I was a kid, learning to love football, the first kind of football I fell in love with was Central Lafourche High School football games, going there as a kid and watching the games and all those guys that I looked up to as a young kid. And then, being able to start my career there, given an opportunity to start as an assistant coach there. You get into coaching, and to have an opportunity to go be a coordinator and step out on my own, be going to Vanderbilt Catholic, being hired by Coach Lance Leday. And he gave me an opportunity, to call plays, and went there and stepped into a great opportunity where we were successful. And that success led to, getting a job at South Terrebonne High School, where, now it's leading your own program, after 13 years of being an assistant, becoming a head football coach for the first time at South Terrebonne, in a great community with great players and great kids. And it formed who I was the first 13 years, and then the last 4 years has been, a great blessing. And I look at these last 4 years, and it, when I told the players on Tuesday, it was bittersweet. I'm excited, to go back to Central, but it hurt telling them because the relationships I built with them, and look forward, to doing the same thing back at my alma mater with those players and students.
Makes sense. Listen, what's the timetable? Because I know, one fortunate thing is I know we're getting to midterm. I don't know if y'all talked about a timetable of getting there and maybe starting to sort of grow some roots again there in Central Lafourche.
Yes. So if you're talking about starting at Central, the plan is to start at Central Lafourche right after the Christmas break. You look at that, it allows me to be there the semester before, and when it comes to football, with it being the first sport in the fall, this is the off season. This is where you're team building. This is where you're building up. This is where you're setting the foundation. So it's so important to be there, and and fortunate for me to be there so early, in that, and to make it a really good transition to where, I feel that I could have a lot of implementation of what I think the program needs to look like under my leadership.
Very good. Very good. Listen, it's a 5A district. That's tough. There's no doubt. You have the Destrahans and you have the Hornbills and such. Thibodeau's come along, but you also were in a district that had the E.D. Whites and the Lutchers and everything along the way too. Competition is not something that, as long as I've known you, that you're really worried about too much. It's more about Central Lafourche and not so much about who you're playing, at least to start, right?
I think, it is that way, and it needs to stay that way. When you look at it, you can't back away from competition. And that's the great part about these districts around here. When you look at it, we had from our district, when you talk about second, third weeks, we've always had multiple teams playing in the playoffs still at that point, coming from this 8-4A district in the last few years. With E.D. White having played in a state championship, Lutcher won one a few years ago. So, our kids here are battle tested. And it's the same thing, at Central Lafourche, where, you got the Destrahan, Hornbills, Terrebones of the world that are winning playoff games and are seen as great teams, and I welcome that challenge. I think everybody should welcome that challenge. But you're right. It starts with you, and it needs to stay that way with you kind of throughout. Football in a game that is so game plan specific, and something that I do lean on a lot going into a week-to-week basis is game planning. But it's still about you. You're game planning because of what the opponent's going to show you, but it's still about you. How are you going to execute? What are the small adjustments we need to make? And then, it's exciting. It's exciting to me when you have an undefeated team coming in and you're an underdog. That's where memories are made. I think the opportunity that presents itself there is that we've got to take that, relish it, and then go compete and just leave it all on the field. And when it's done, when you've done everything you can, we're not looking at a scoreboard. We're looking at our teammates, we're looking at our coaches, and we're saying we did the best we can, and I'm proud of what that is. And that's what I'm planning on bringing to Central Lafourche High School.
Awesome. Coaches, got to fill out a staff, or is there a lot in place already?
I think, let me count days now, because the days are kind of jumbling together. I think we're 48 hours in. They've got some guys still on staff. I really haven't gotten into staffing. I think they coach short staff. So, you got to talk to the guys there. What was their situation? See where they're at and where exactly does that feel. And from there you start working. They have a former head coach on the staff, and Coach Chris Dugas. So, hopefully all that's able to work out with him. I think he's a great football coach. He's going to be a great ally for me. with that being said, and then filling out from there to do those things. And, who wants to come and take on a challenge, of getting Central Lafourche High School, back to where the community wants it and where I think it should be also.
Again, a big congratulations on the job. I'd be remiss not to ask you if you heard from Coach Keith Menard yet. I'm sure he's excited as you sort of came up that tree with him, right?
No, absolutely. Coach Menard, I work for him at Central, and really, if it wouldn't be for him, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. Speak with him. I speak to him on a regular basis. I still view him as a mentor. Yeah, he called me and congratulated me, and I value that relationship with him greatly, as he still mentors me on a regular basis. So yeah, we had a quick conversation. I think it was yesterday. And sooner or later, the real work's going to begin. Once I'm able to be at Central every day.
Very good. Congratulations, Coach. Excited for you. Glad you could be home. And hopefully we could do this periodically going forward with you there at Central Lafourche.
Absolutely. I look forward to talking to you, Mr. Stan.
A big thanks to Aaron Babin for giving us some time, talking with us about his decision. I know he's going to do a fine job there. Of course, we're keeping an eye on what's going to happen with South Terrebonne and what's going to happen with H.L. Bourgeois, two Terrebonne Parish schools that are in search of a head football coach. And depending on what happens, it could start a chain reaction of a lot of schools needing a head football coach. We'll see how that all plays out. As I mentioned earlier, hope you are having a terrific holiday season. Kids in school have one more week. They get out, and then the end of next week, it'll be Christmas. And then 1 week from that, it'll be New Year's. Any specific plans? Are you in town?
Yes, I will be in town.
Very good.
Yeah.
That was succinct.
Succinct. Well, most of my Christmas shopping is done.
Okay.
I have a few things left to get.
Thank God for Amazon Prime.
That's it.
Because that's how I
The deadline's coming up.
So what does that mean?
Well, at a certain point, it'll
Yeah,
be too
you're not
late
gonna
to
get
order from Amazon.
You're right. I get it for sure. Anyway, again, we hope you have a safe holiday season. We'll be back next Monday. One more show before we get to Christmas. And we'll get you caught up in basketball. Maybe let you know how some of these coaching searches pan out also. Hope you have a wonderful week, everybody. Take care.